I'm Lisa, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use your sewing machine and do two types of basic stitches. It's perfect for total beginners, so let's get going. Okay, so these are the things that you'll need for this video to learn how to use your sewing machine. So first of all, you'll need your actual sewing machine. Then you will need to refer to your sewing machine manual at a couple of times. Then you'll need some thread. This is all-purpose sewing thread. I've chosen red so that it's really easy to see it. You'll need some scissors and then two pieces of fabric that can be sewn together. I've chosen white just so that the red shows up really well, and it's a good idea if you perhaps use a plain fabric at first just so that you can see your stitches very clearly. These are the main parts that you will get with your sewing machine. So you'll have the sewing machine itself. There will be an arm which will be detachable or possibly fold up. This one's detachable, so this comes off, and quite often there is storage inside. Okay, that's really easy to put back on. So that's the arm. There will also be a foot pedal. So this goes on the floor and your foot moves this up and down to run the machine, and there's a power source. Okay, so I just wanted to show you the side of the machine where it gets plugged in. So you can see here I just have one point that needs to be plugged in. Now my foot pedal and my power source both lead to this same cable, so I only have one that needs to be plugged in. Now quite often you will have two. You'll have one for your power source, and then you'll have another for your foot pedal. I press this on the floor. When I press my foot on here, this makes the machine turn round. It makes the needle go up and down, and that's what causes the stitches to happen. So if I show you quickly, okay, so foot pedal is powering that. Okay, so now the machine's got power, it needs thread in order to make the stitches, and the way it does that is it has a thread at the top, attached at the top, and then it has thread which goes on this bobbin underneath. So we've got a top piece and a bottom piece, and together they form a stitch. So you have the top stitch and then the bottom stitch. Okay, so first of all we're going to deal with filling the bottom thread, and this is a bobbin. This bobbin is going to come with your machine. There will probably be some spare ones with your machine, but you can buy extra ones as well. And we're going to fill this bobbin with thread. Okay, so we need to get this onto here. Okay, so the thread needs to go onto here. It's going to sit on there. In some of the new machines, the thread tends to sit in that position there. It doesn't make any difference which position it is, it all does the same job. So the thread is going to sit on there, and then it's going to come over here, and there is very kindly a little picture and it says number 1. So it shows me I need to go round there for number 1, and then I need to come round here to number 2, and this is where my bobbin is going to sit. Okay, but before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wind a little bit of thread onto my bobbin, because I just find it makes it easier. It's because sometimes if it's not on there properly, it whizzes off. So I'm just going to wind it round 3 or 4 times to tighten it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it on here. Now you can see that there is a little indent there, and that little indent has to match up with this little knobbly bit there. So I'm going to put the indent onto the knobbly bit, and you could hear it then, it sort of clicked into place. And then what I have to do is I have to push it over to one side so that it's engaged. So that tells the machine that we're now going to start winding a bobbin. And the thing with this machine, it might be different on other people's machines, I have to disengage this handle. Okay, so I just have to turn this handle anti-clockwise, and now this is ready to wind the bobbin. So I've got the foot pedal here, which would be on the floor, but I'm just for these purposes, just so that you can see, I'm bringing it up here. So it will be on the floor and my foot will be pushing it. So once I push this down, you'll see that this bobbin starts to be wound. I'll just do it slowly. Okay, you might be able to see that the thread actually goes up and down the bobbin to distribute it evenly, so I'll do it faster now. Okay, what I would say is if you're doing a large item like a dress or something that will need a lot of thread, you would fill the whole bobbin full, but because I'm only going to be doing a small amount, I'm just going to fill it quite a small amount. Okay, that's probably enough. Put a foot back on the floor and disengage it. So I'm going to cut it off. Okay, remember I need to click it back in place. Okay, pull it off, and then I mustn't forget to re-engage my handle. So turn my handle clockwise this time. Okay, and now you can see the bobbin doesn't have a lot of thread on there. It's got enough for what we need to do there. Okay, so the bobbin has now got some thread on it. Okay, so we've filled the bobbin, but we're now going to thread the top of the machine. I'm going to do it in a couple of different angles just so that you can see really clearly. So you will need to refer to your own machine because it might be slightly different. Most machines are very, very similar to this though. So what you'll find is it has drawings on here to tell you what to do. So the thread is in the same place as it was before when we were threading the bobbin. So that's where the thread sits. Then it comes round this first place is our number 1, shows us here number 1. Then it goes through here, which is number 2. Okay, so I'm now going to come round here, number 3. It shows me with the round shape, so I'm going to go round number 3, and then this is number 4 here, and again there's an arrow showing me that it goes in that direction, and you can just see inside there that there is a metal piece that is where the thread needs to go around. What I need to do is I'm going to move my handle and make it come up right to the very top. Can you see? And it's also moving the foot at the bottom. So I want that to be its highest point, so I can go round. So its highest point, and that's it. I'm bringing it down, and I'm coming down here. Okay, now I'm coming down. I'm going to go behind here, behind the piece, and then can you see there's a little piece that is sticking out there? I'm going to send it behind there, and then it just needs to be threaded into the eye of the needle. Now, I've not put this on before, but it has a light. So I am now going to thread that into the needle, and I want to go from the back, from the front to the back. There we go. Oops, that's not very good. Look, it's come out. So I'll re-push it behind those two. Okay, and that is the top of the needle, the top of the machine threaded. Okay, so now that the top of the machine is threaded, we need to thread the bottom of the machine with the bobbin that we've just filled up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this arm. Now, just to say that some of the more modern machines, there will be an area here that will be see-through with a little cover, and the bobbin will drop into there. So you may have that, you may not, because obviously they're all different, but what you'll need to do is just refer to your own manual at this stage and see how yours works. But I'll show you how mine works, and that will give you a good enough idea to know the mechanics behind how yours will work. Okay, so I'm going to remove this sleeve, and then I have a little door here which drops down, and you can see there is a space here where the bobbin is going to go. So the bobbin that we've got here needs to go into a bobbin case. Okay, so sorry, it's shaking everywhere. So what you need to do is mine is in the shape of a 9. Okay, so I've got the round and then the stalk drops down. That's the way my bobbin needs to go into my bobbin case. Some of them go the opposite way, like a letter P. So there's the stalk and then it goes round. So just check with your manual which way it goes, because it does make a difference. Okay, so I am going to put mine in in the number 9, shape of the number 9 into my case. Okay, and there is a small indent there where the thread has to sit in. Can you see? And then it comes round and it just naturally sits in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit it into here. I have a little handle that I can pull out, and it helps my bobbin just to sit in place. I can feel, can you see? I can feel that it's in place, and I'm just going to leave my thread there for the moment. Okay, so we have a thread now on the top and we have a thread on the bottom, and we need to join them both up. So the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to hold on to this thread here, and I'm going to use my handle at the side which moves this needle up and down, and I'm going to push the needle down, and as I push the needle down, the bobbin at the bottom, or the casing, is actually rotating, and as it comes up, what it's doing is it's magic. Look, it lifts up that thread and pulls it up to the top. Okay, so now we have got both threads here at the top. Okay, we've got the top thread and we've got the bottom thread. There we go. Okay, so now we can shut this door and put the sleeve back on, and we are ready to start sewing. Okay, so when you start sewing, you need to select the stitches that you're going to use. Now, you really only need 2 stitches to get by on virtually any project, and that is straight stitch and zigzag stitch. You can see here that this is straight and this is zigzag stitch. This is a very basic machine, and I've only got sort of 12 stitches here. Some of the newer ones, the digital machines, you can literally have hundreds and hundreds of stitches, and that's great if you want to use all of them, but I think that I probably use the straight stitch 95% of the time. My stitches are controlled here by this handle, so you can see number 2, straight stitch and zigzag stitch. I put it on number 2, and that is how I select it. So before we start sewing, there are just a couple of things that I wanted to show you. So the first one is the handle that you didn't see before. Now this handle moves this needle up and down. Can you see? As I'm moving this handle, the needle goes up and down. Now, when I use this handle, I use it at the beginning and at the end of sewing stitches, because it gives me more control than a foot pedal. Okay, this here, can you see it's got like an arrow, upside down arrow? This is the backward stitch. So you'll have this on all machines. It won't necessarily be in this position. So when you press that stitch, the stitching goes backwards rather than forwards. And again, that's used at the beginning and at the end of stitches when you're doing a backward stitch to secure it. Okay, so now that we've selected the stitch, we know that we're going to do the straight stitch. We now have 2 more things to choose, and I promise that's it. So you've got stitch length and you've got stitch width. Now, stitch length, I tend to just leave mine on 2.5, so it goes between 1 and 4, and mine isn't a very manual thing, but like I say, some of the digital ones, it will be a digital display, so I leave mine on 2.5, don't really change it much from there. And this is the width of the stitch. Now, if you are doing a straight stitch, the width will always be 0, so that means that the needle just keeps stitching in the same place and comes backwards and forward. Comes forward each time. If you are doing a zigzag, that's when this width changes, okay? And the higher the number, the wider the stitch will be. So I'm going to leave that on 0. Right, we've selected the width and length, so let's get the fabric ready to sew. So there's 2 pieces of fabric here. They are going to sit one on top of the other. I'm going to put them on here, which is the plate, and I'm going to put them underneath the needle, and this edge is going to run parallel with one of these lines here, which is going to allow me to guide my fabric. Okay, so this outside edge will be sat parallel with one of these lines, and I will guide that throughout the time that I'm sewing. So I need to bring my needle into the fabric, so I'm going to use my handle at the side, hold on to my threads with my finger and bring the needle so that it's inside the fabric. Take it right down. Okay, I have a lever here which I'm going to release. That releases the foot. This is the foot here. Take it up again. This is the foot here. So once I release it, it keeps it in place. Okay, and I'm going to sew the first few stitches. I'll hold the thread for the first couple of stitches. I'm going to use my foot pedal and sew 3 or 4 stitches and then stop. Now I'm going to use my handle so that this last stitch I want the needle to be right inside, okay? And when it's right inside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this reverse knob and I'm going to go back for the same number of stitches, okay? You have to keep it pressed. And I'm back where I started. Now that I have secured the end, I can just sew forward for as much as I need. So I'm going to just sew forward now using my foot pedal. And I'm going to stop. I guided my fabric with my hand and I'm going to stop, and I'm now going to do exactly what I did at the beginning, reverse the reverse stitch the last few stitches. So press my reverse knob again, keep it in and go backwards by 3 or 4 stitches. Stop. I'm going to take my needle up to its highest point now because I'm going to start the stitch, and then I'm just going to come forward by 3 or 4 stitches, so I'll be back to my end point then. Okay, now I want to take my needle to its highest point, so I'll use my handle. Can you see the needle's going up? It needs to be right at its very highest point, okay, in order to disengage this. I will then release the foot and I will gently pull the fabric back, okay. I'll cut it off, and what I can do is I can cut off these ends. This is the row of stitching, so you can see it looks very neat. You can see at both of the ends I've gone over the stitches to make it secure so it won't come undone, and it looks the same at the back. Okay, so now we're going to sew a zigzag stitch, and do you remember I was talking about the width, so you can choose the different widths of the stitches. This width was done at 2.5 and this width was done at 5, so you can see the difference in the widths of them. So that's all that we're going to change now. We're going to keep the length of the stitch at 2.5, the same as it was before, and I'm going to do the width of the stitch at 2.5, which is just between the 0 and the 5. Okay, so put the fabric underneath, bring the needle down whilst holding the back threads, release the foot and sew the first 3 or 4 stitches. Stop. The needle's already inside, so I'm now going to press the reverse knob and keep it held down and go back for 3 stitches. Stop. Make sure it's at its highest point, and now I'm just going to sew forward, guiding my fabric. Then I'm going to stop, bring my needle down, press the reverse knob, go back for 3 stitches, stop. My needle is at its highest point, so I'm now just going to sew forward for 3 stitches and stop. I need to make sure my needle is now at the highest point, which I think it is, yeah. Release the foot and gently pull backwards. And there you can see, nice zigzag. You can see where I've gone over beginning and the end, and it looks the same at the back. So the process was no different to the straight stitch. The only difference is that instead of the needle coming forward at the same position, when you zigzag it goes backwards and forwards. You'll find that straight stitch, you'll probably use that 95% of the time. You use it most. I use it most of the time. This zigzag stitch tends to be used on the edges of a fabric. It will stop the fabrics fraying at the edges. So that's probably one of the most common uses for the zigzag stitch. What I would recommend now is that you practice. Get comfortable with your machine and practice doing some straight lines and some zigzags, and then when you're comfortable doing the straight lines, I would start doing waves, okay, so that you can move the fabric and start doing curves. The first project that I think would be perfect is a tote bag, and this is the next video that I recommend you watching. It only uses straight lines. It's really simple, and it's a perfect project for beginners. So check it out, and I will see you in that next video.